Ready? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call a meeting of the zoning commission to order. Meeting called for 5:30. Our clock says 6:30, but we're just running a little late according to that clock, I guess. But, I'm gonna ask y'all to silence all your cell phones and electronic devices at this time. So if you would, all stand up, and I'm gonna ask Mr. Kevin Durbin to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Okay, at this time we're gonna have roll call. If you would, mark yourself present. Okay, thank y'all. At this time, I'm gonna ask you to approve the minutes of the two previous meetings, 8/21 and 9/18.
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Okay, motion by,
Did you,
Rusty.
you hit the motion button? Okay.
second by Ms. Jackson. That they be approved. Go ahead and mark your ballot. Okay. Thank y'all. Okay, correspondence. At this time, I want to welcome our new commissioner, Mr. Curtis Ducote, to the commission. This is his first meeting. He's taking the place of Mr. Rusty Daigle, who was elected to down in Brewley there earlier this year, so he had to resign. So we want to welcome Curtis to the commission. Welcome, sir. Okay, at this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing for item number 4A, an ordinance to amend and reenact Appendix A zoning districts of Chapter 104 zoning ordinance, Part 3, Unified Development Code of the West Baton Rouge Parish Code of Ordinances to permit automobile and equipment repair establishments to operate in light industrial I-1 zoning districts. Okay. Mr. Durbin,
Mr. Chairman, good evening. I know it's been a while since we met. I feel like this is
state
new.
your name for the record,
My
please.
name is Kevin Durbin. I am the Planning and Zoning Director some days. Mr. Chairman, in terms of ordinance, this is about as simple as they get. This is an ordinance to add automobile and equipment repair to light and moderate industrial I-1 and I-2 district. It's just a change to the zoning table. The reason why we're asking you to vote on this tonight is that it's come to our attention that some of these services that are done at these facilities kind of fall into the industrial range, whether that be painting, some paint operations, paint booths, that kind of stuff. So we're looking at putting these back in industrial. I think they were in industrial at one time, and they got taken out. The council voted to strip a lot of things out of industrial that used to be industrial and put them in commercial. We're asking that we put this one particular use back in industrial, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, okay.
It's also going to remain in commercial. Yes, sir.
Okay, you want to basically go over it right quick so we can understand what the
Sure.
differences are or whatever?
Sure. Again, if you just look at page 2, and I don't think the pages have numbers on them, but if you look at page 2, it's just a change to the zoning table. So this is automobile and equipment repair. And if you see under the I-1 and I-2 column, we would be adding that use to light and moderate industrial. It would also remain in C1.3 and C1.4.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Anybody on the commission have any questions for Mr. Durbin? Being none, anybody in the audience need to make any comments or anything on the? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Huh?
There is somebody.
Oh, you did? Okay. Would you like to make a comment on this? No. Okay. Okay, Mike. Okay. Item number 4B, file number 2018 dash,
We don't want to close public
Do you
hearing?
want to close and vote on this one and
Yeah.
go to the next one?
I think so.
do you want to close it?
We got a lot to we got a lot to cover, so we ought
Okay,
to do each one. I recommend it's whatever y'all.
okay, let's close, we can close it. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to close the
I'll
public
make a
hearing.
motion to close it.
Motion by Rusty, second by Carrie,
It's Joyce.
A second.
or Ms. Green, okay. Close the public hearing, all those in favor, mark your ballot.
No. The motion, the meeting's closed, we just want to make the vote.
We gotta make
Okay.
the vote.
Motion on the ordinance. It's been a
Okay,
while since we met.
look, I can't get this computer straight, and when you do use a computer and don't use a computer. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
We did do a motion.
Wait,
Well, yeah.
Russell, are you making
A motion to close the hearing.
to close?
Okay,
the
And then
motion.
we're
hearing?
gonna vote
Okay.
on the
At
ordinance.
this time, I'll entertain a motion to dispense with item number 4A.
I'll make a motion, we recommend it for approval, the change.
Okay.
Okay,
Motion by Rusty, second by Sid.
okay. For approval?
For approval.
Okay, is there any more discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay? Oh, you're gonna mark your computer this time, okay, there we go. Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, at this time, I'm gonna reopen the public hearing for file number 4B, file 2018-10, to rezone from Ag to I-2, moderate industrial zone, parking of van trucks for trucking company. 1815 Lapperton Lane, Port Allen, 35 acres more or less, in section 64, township 6 south, range 12 east, and a part of the Mulberry Plantation for TMI Enterprises. This is a master plan change. Okay, is anybody here to represent that? Okay.
Well, good afternoon. Louis Feely with TMI. Let's see. The first question that I had was, I was a little bit lost. Is this going to take 5 votes or 6 votes to pass? Is anybody sustaining for a conflict or anything? Or how many votes does it take to pass? 6 votes?
For master plan change, it takes supermajority, which is 6,
Six
correct,
votes.
Kevin?
Okay, supermajority.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Anyway, well, I'm Louis Veely. I founded TMI Enterprise in 1984. And what we're doing over on Lafayette Lane is we have already done some of the dirt work. And we're asking to change the zoning to an I-2 zoning. And we have reason to do that. And it's my understanding in the master plan that was originally intended that it was a zoning of I-2, but they later, I don't know why, but it was showed as agriculture now. We are asking to change it to I-2 for several reasons. Some of the reasons, I was looking at the zoning districts, and I wanted it to be in compliance with what I plan to do there. And y'all all know what was already been done is it was full of popcorn trees, and they was using it for an old farmhouse and some horses and stuff. And all that's been removed, it's been cleaned up, and it's been stabilized. And it has a lot of, we put some limestone on the ground to kind of stabilize the ground. Now, it's been used for communication towers for, I think, approximately 25 to 30 years, and it's still being used. There's one live radio station there now. And it's still putting out the beeper signals on several of the other towers. So they're still there. Now, that can be done in other things than I-2, but it is acceptable in I-2. Now, I plan to do multiple things on this piece of property. Another thing that I intended on doing was some concrete crushing. And no difference, and we all know we know where the interstate turns into one lane, and there's going to be some concrete coming from that area. And we're hoping to take that concrete and crush it up to help us make us some good topping for the stone. And presently, we also plan to handle dirt. And I have a picture here that shows it's all cleared up. Where you all know it is where the horses used to stay, and it had some issues. But it's all cleared up, and we neatly have a pile of dirt in the rear that we plan to hold the dirt. And we plan to use the dirt for our own use, and we plan to bring in the concrete, put it in a neat pile to the rear, as I do all my properties. And that zoning would require I-2, so that's why I'm requesting it. But not only for that reason, I have, like all of the properties, I try to do multiple things out of it. And we are also in the process of, we did the dirt work, but we haven't did the building because we don't have the zoning ready. But this is a copy of the building that's there ready to be installed. And this building was just going to be used for a marine service. And in your zoning, marine services, boats, ships, repairs has to be zoned to I-2. Y'all probably looking at me a little funny, like I want to repair a ship there or get it there. But the service that I'm talking about is tugboats, and they push up on they push the blue boats to the tugs. Barges. They push the barges to the refineries and different things. And these tugboats, this guy has a fleet of tugboats, and he plans to just take the engine out and just bring the engine there and just bring the engine to the rebuild facility and rebuild the engine. So kind of similar to the mechanic shop that we just spoke of, but they just working on a real big engine. And according to that, marine services and boats and ship repairs, it must be, an I-2 service. Of course, we have our third reason for doing that, and we already have the trucks and trailers there. Hopefully that's not a huge issue, but once we stabilized it, we had a need for trucks and trailers. And of course, that's what brought TMI to the dance, was the trucks and trailers. And what we plan to do is, there already is some trucks and trailers running out of there. And what we do on that is we just stabilize the ground, and these things won't quit running around on me. But this one, we put in what we call a loading pad. A loading pad is nothing simply but a long piece of iron where when you unhook from the trailer, it doesn't sink in the ground. And we put that across the ground, and the trailers can put their feet there where they don't sink into the ground. So that's what we're doing there with it presently. And those are the three reasons I was asking to zone it to I-2. Just to give you a little more confidence of who we are and what we do, I have brought over 35 companies to Port Allen, which created over 350 jobs. And that's not counting my companies, which has involvements over 1,000 employees, 1,000 people, families that make their living. They could be called employees, associates. We run close to 2,000 trailers, 376 trucks. But these here are 35 different companies we brought. So the reason I brought that up is that's similar to what I plan to do. Like, if everybody's familiar, you know, they probably concerned on, and some of y'all may be concerned on what we plan to do there. But the best example I could give you is if everybody's familiar with Highway 1, in front of Criterion Shale, which is a chemical plant, all that is zoned I-2. And we had it zoned I-2 because of our trucking needs and needs that we have done. And what have I done with that to demonstrate it? I have put 3 buildings in the front. One is a environmental recovery service. What they do is when someone spills some oil or someone does some other things, they go clean it up. And this is what it looks like, which is real neat, with a neat building and things with limestone. And that's one of the things. The other thing that we're doing on there, we put DMR Rentals. And DMR Rentals rents heavy equipment. And that's similar, the 3 things we did there. And then the other one was American Mat we put there. So, and also, not only American Mat, we have a company there that transports the United States mail. And they doing it in rental trucks right now because they haven't got the full contract. Now, that's a lot of stuff that's happening there, and that's similar things that I could run across. Now, this is the picture of the trucks that are there presently on the land, and they transport household goods similar to what we use daily. So, one thing else I wanted to remind, I have a large investment in Port Allen. I built my residence in Port Allen, and I brought jobs to Port Allen, and I kind of kept them on that side of the bridge and the north side, and on the south side, you know, it's all residence. I had built my residence there, and my residence is only 1,240 feet from where this site is on Laffington Lane. So I know that there's been some nervousness that somebody thought maybe I might do something really bad, like some kind of chemical process or something, I don't know what. But anyway, I can assure you that we have no intentions of doing anything this close to my residence that I think that would affect me. We have done other things, like we purchased Dude's Trailer Park, and I've heard everywhere from the district attorney to the sheriff to all the respond units saying that things have been a lot better since that's not in operation. We have yet begun to work with it or do anything and finish it. It is still there, but we haven't worked on that. So those are the reasons I'm asking, and I hope I demonstrated the usage of what I plan to use it for and why it should be zoned I-2. And does any of the council have any questions for me?
I've got a question. I don't know if it should be directed to you or not, but is there any chance that we'd have a,
Excuse me 1 second, I'm sorry. My first job was this flour mill down here in Port Allen, and they always told me to wear my earplugs, but evidently I didn't do it. But if you get a little louder here, I can help you.
all right? My only concern is, do we know for sure that there's no conflict between the existing radio towers and what you want to do? I have absolutely no problem at all with all of the stuff you've done in that part of the parish. I think it's an
Okay.
outstanding improvement. My only concern is that there may be a conflict with this radio tower since it is still existing and operating.
Okay.
Kevin, do we know what type of permit they have?
The communications tower?
Yeah,
I don't know how long it's even been there.
before you and I, but.
Yeah.
So those are actually operated by what was formerly Citadel Broadcasting, which was purchased by Cumulus. They actually still operate a couple of radio stations.
Wait a minute, but let me stop you and just ask you, could you come up to the mic and speak in the mic so we're trying to get it on the record. And we can't get it on the record in the back of the building.
So those are actually operated by Cumulus, which was previously Citadel Broadcasting. They've been operating there for about 30 years. They actually still operate radio stations. Those are AM frequency stations. They will pose absolutely no conflict with anything we do on the ground. Actually, they rent from us now, and we work in cohesion with them. So there'll be no conflict. They're actually moving their stuff and consolidating a little bit more of their footprint and making it a bit better. They're actually, we actually have worked to help protect those areas. There's one tower, I believe, that's not going to be used later on, and that would be taken down. But it's actually, frequency right now is WXOK and a WIBR station. So it is a gospel station and it is a news talk station that's broadcast from there. So we have no intention of disturbing that.
Do they own that property where the towers are?
They do not actually own that property. They actually lease it from TMI Enterprise. So we actually lease it directly to Cumulus. They pay a very small rent amount, and it's not a very lucrative situation, but it's beneficial to the community, and it's been a long time staying there. So, but it is also one of the only places that they can broadcast from. So, but we
To
have no,
answer Sid's question, I'm sure that tower doesn't conflict with anything, but
no.
right at the base of the old bridge, you've got West Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office got a tower. The church has a tower over there, right next to Louis' residence. They've got, I believe, 2 cell towers on your property.
Yeah.
Right there under the old bridge also. So you've got 4 towers right there amongst all the trucks there, and there's not any conflict there.
Yeah, but we work directly with Cumulus, and we work with their engineers, and we have been for a couple years now that he's owned the property, and we don't disturb what they do. They also have a small amount of broadcast equipment housed inside that building. So,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions from the council that?
Anybody on the commission have any questions for Mr. VA?
I have a question about the, you saying vans, you wanted to
I-
store, I'm sorry,
Well,
you wanted to store vans on this property?
The van trailers,
Van trailers, yes.
the van trailers are, like I said, is mostly household goods, but they don't store them. They just, they have one truck that continues to pick them up and drop them, and then other trucks that pick them up and transport them.
So they would be empty on your property?
Well, they'd be empty and loaded. And these are the loaded pads. That's the reason that we put the loaded pads down, that when they drop them. So but they're not going to be staying there. They just load them up and bring them there. One truck runs local, bringing them local and picking them up and dropping them. And then the other trucks hook onto them, and that gives them a bigger window of time to hook onto them, and they run them for a longer distance.
Okay.
Much further distance. So you have your long runs and your short runs. So anyway, there will be loaded trailers there sometimes, but they won't stay there all the time. They always in shipping.
And I was just kind of curious about.
And most of them are interstate shipments, so. Any other questions that
Yeah.
would be concerns?
Yeah, Mr. Louis, Kevin, this application doesn't, I know he's shooting for I-2, that's what he wants. The only proposal it says on here is truck parking. It doesn't say anything about the other things that you plan to do. So is this a valid?
Yeah, we wasn't
I'm
sure
asking-
what,
I'm asking Kevin, is this a valid application, or does he have to reapply? Because he specifically here, he mentions the radio tower and the truck parking. And his other things, that's legit things, that's fine, but that's not on the application. So that's something, doesn't say anything about that. So,
It is a valid application.
right, but it only states these things, correct?
Well,
And I just want to make sure this gets done right.
Yeah, so the heart of the application is the zoning request itself. So in the application, he's asking.
So you can put
for-
anything, add anything you want to the application.
Well, he's telling you tonight that he's got some other plans for the property, which is why
Okay.
he asked for the I-2 that maybe he didn't think of at the time of the application.
Okay. I mean, I just think it needs to be stated on the application.
But the key thing about the application, the thing that gets advertised, is the actual request, the I-2 request. So if you look at the ad, we don't, well, I think in this case, we did put the van trucks in the ad, but we don't.
Right,
have to put
it
that in
does.
the ad.
Okay,
The
He
actual
could
part-
conceivably do whatever fit in I-2.
right, okay.
Yes, sir. So we would consider it a valid application.
Any other questions? I can,
I have a question. How
Yes.
much truck activity on a daily basis would you see there? In and
Well,
out?
let's see. I've got
About.
some information on that. They have, they're running, at the present time, they're running, 20 different trucks, and they are hauling in, you know, I'm thinking some of the trucks takes 2 days to make a load, so they coming in, I would say 10 trucks per day, because the average load takes about 2 days, so I haven't really thought. I was doing the math in my head there a little bit on different ones, but, and most of them use the intersection in front of Plastic Refinery, because it's a controlled intersection, red light. They have a problem going the other way because they don't have a controlled intersection. They have to cross 2 lanes at one time. So most of your traffic you'll find will come from Highway 1 through that controlled red light, up Lafferty Lane, and then back to Highway 1 using that controlled red light and go to north, south, east, or west from there.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Or
Anybody else on the commission? Anybody else? Thank you, sir. Okay, at this time, I'm gonna ask if anybody in the audience cares to make any comments?
Good evening. My name is Stacy Turner Krebs. I reside at 2141 Lafferty Lane on Margaret Plantation. I am the great-great-great-granddaughter of John Hill. I am the daughter of Marcia Bess Turner, who passed away in February of this year. I am the executor of her estate. I'm also the farm manager for Margaret Plantation. I am also the farm manager and the executor for Margaret Plantation LLC, Marcia B. Turner, Marcia B. Turner et al.'s. I am a direct relative with Homestead Plantation Property Owners, who was founded by my great-great-great-grandfather. I don't have lawyers. I don't have fancy pictures. I don't have anything. I don't even have an official notice that this hearing was going to be held. I received a call Thursday night telling me, hey, Stacy, you know what I-2 is? Don't have a clue. Never been to a planning and zoning commission in my life. Served 25 years as your registrar of voters, promoting democracy, ensuring fair elections. I have retired since October 1st. I didn't get a letter. I am the executor. I am the farm manager. I am listed in court records, assessor records. My aunt, Melissa Best Higgins, who was also the great-granddaughter of John Hill, did not receive a notice. My cousins, who I own jointly, 1/5 of his property that we butt up to, 1/2 of the rest of Lafferty Lane, including Homestead's property. Dana Mosley, residing in Orlando, Florida, never received a notice. Richard Mosley, residing in Houston, Texas, never received a notice. Mary Scott Blake Mosley, residing in Lexington, Kentucky, never received a notice. We did not know this was coming before you. We did not have time to get our attorneys, to get our land searches, for me to even know what I-2 is. I didn't know what I-1 was. My family has been farming West Baton Rouge Parish since 1860, when we were granted safe passage across the river from Baton Rouge. And since 1860, we aren't business owners. We don't employ thousands of people anymore, but at one time, you bet we did. We had Catherine Mill, Barossa Mill, Bird Brown, Margaret Plantation, Caruth, we are still in partnership with Harry L. Laws. So did we employ thousands of people at one time? Yes. Do we now? No. Here's my question. Besides the landowners who adjacent two sides of this three-sided triangle or rectangle or whatever it is, we received no notification. Where's the due process? At minimum, landowners should be notified of an ag from 1860 to an I-2 in 2018. We don't know what the heck is going on. Here's my next question. If that's not good enough to defer this, here's my next. 35 acres. 35 acres. Any of you walk 35 acres, know 35 acres? To do marine service, loading pads, ironworks, concrete on the rear, in and out trucking, concrete crushing, handling dirt, running a radio station, managing cell towers on 35 acres of land. How many businesses will be put on 35 acres of land? Until a few months ago, as he eloquently called the trees junk trees or whatever he called them, it was nature. It's where I grew up, it's where my mother grew up, it's where my grandmother grew up, it's where my great-grandmother grew up, my great-greats. You want to call it junk trees, you want to call it pasture, you want to call it cleaning up, doesn't matter. The Mativiers, the Bests, the Caruths, the Hills, that's our home. My uncle, Frank Caruth III, yes, the same Frank Caruth that has the foundations, that funds the school board scholarships that I sit on 4 boards for. My uncle, Frank Caruth III, sold that 35 acres. I know exactly when. Y'all are talking about, maybe 20, 25, not in my lifetime. I know exactly when. He sold it to Bob Earl because they were friends in college. They went to Annapolis Military again. He sold it to Bob Earl as a favor because Bob Earl was going into the communications building, i.e. AM, FM, AM radio stations. Back then there weren't FM. My uncle sold that 35 acres as a radio station. For 35 acres, it's been just that. The horses, Louis thinks we had problems with the horses. I don't think the horses caused a person a problem. I think the owners of the horses perhaps might have caused the people a problem. His opinion is he cleaned it up. Maybe sometimes, nature's not such a bad idea in ag. My fiduciary responsibility is to my landowners, which I represent, of which I am one of them, to any heirs of the Hills, the Caruths, the Bests. That is my job. I have not received notification. I have had a conversation about the limestone in the past. I sat in Mr. Berthelot's office and I said, "Hey, Pee-wee, what are they doing down there? I see they're putting a couple of trucks of limestone." At the time, he was absolutely correct. Don't worry about it, Stacy. They're just going to put a couple of trucks there for right now. No big deal. Take a man for his word. I do. I called the Planning and Zoning Commission when 10, 20, 30, 40 loads of limestone are put down. 50, 60, 70, 80 loads of limestone are put down. I called Planning and Zoning Commission twice. I said, "What's going on?" They said, "Let me call you back." I said, "Okay." Got to call back. "Oh, the owners don't have any plans to do anything with this property right now. They're just putting some limestone down." No problem. Good to go. Have a nice day. Thursday night, I get a phone call. "Stacy, you know what I-2 is?" "No, why?" "Well, guess what? I-2 is a plant." "A plant? What are you talking about, a plant?" I-2 is a plant. They can put a plant there. They don't have to put a plant there, but they can put a plant there. So what do you mean a plant? Like a Dow or something? It's 35 acres. All right. I don't have enough time as a landowner. I'm sorry. 96 hours, 2 of being a weekend. I can't properly defend a man who's got 1 million lawyers. I can't do it. Okay? That's not what my family does. We farm property. We provide sugar cane. That's what we do. That's what we've done since 1860. We have no plans of doing anything else. And that 35 acres does not warrant concrete crushing, handling dirt, concrete on the rear, maritime service, trucks and trailers, loading pads, and ironworks. Was DOTD, DEQ, roads and drainage for West Baton Rouge, or any site and permits issued for what's been done so far? Is the height of the limestone in compliance with DOT's regulation? Is it in compliance with EPA and DEQ's regulations for drain off in an agricultural area, which is required to file with federal agencies concerning any runoff, pesticides, herbicides, or any other adaptations to farmland? Was any of this done on this 35 acres by Mr. Villy? I don't know the man. 3 ditches were dug on 3 sides of his property, admittedly by him. I have talked to my farmers, of which I have a lease, a multi-year lease. Is there crop damage? Are the ditches deep enough? Is there runoff? Is there erosion? Is there encroachment? Stacy, my gosh, I'm in the middle of grinding. I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you. I can go on and on. Y'all want me to keep going? Or do y'all want to defer and let the landowners know what the heck is going on? We don't know. We just don't. So.
Thank you, Ms. Stacy. Okay, I didn't know we were getting into a whole bunch, but normally we limit the comments to 3 minutes, so if you would try to leave your comments to 3 minutes, try to expand on anything Ms. Stacy said, if you have some new information or whatever.
Yeah, I do. May
Okay.
I present these to the board?
Okay.
It's not very professional, but it gives you an idea, basically, and I know you can't hear me because I'm not on the mic, but
What's your name?
my name is Deb Landry. I reside on Lafton Lane as well. I just wanted y'all to see a picture of what we see on a daily basis. Driving down the road.
I'm sorry. Your name?
Debbie.
Debbie? Ms. Lynn, thank you.
Thank you. My main concern, and congratulations to your success. And he has been a big supporter of Port Allen for many years, West Baton Rouge, and I understand that. I'm not so much against what his proposed parking of vans, trucks, which is really 18-wheeler trailers. I'm not opposed to that as a resident on Lafton Lane. What I am opposed to is the traffic. You know, like if he could commit that his drivers will come in LA1 and leave LA1, simply because we do have, when you're driving down, are y'all familiar with Lafton Lane? Okay, so when you're driving down, going west from LA1, there are 3 major pipelines right there. There's the Exxon where it stores, its fuel. And then there's a pipeline, then there's a trailer park, and then there's another pipeline. So if any of these 18-wheelers veer off the road, these pipelines are within 60 feet from the road. There is no way, it will cause a huge explosion. And I'm not only talking about his trucks. I would like to see us try to reroute all the 18-wheelers going into Placid. Because if you look at this first picture on the second page, the exhibit, here, I'm sorry, I have that for you. You can see the road is only 22 feet wide, and these 18-wheelers are, with the mirrors, they're 9.5 feet wide. So you have barely any passage. And if you have 2 18-wheelers crossing each other, it's very dangerous, as well as crossing the school bus. And then, the second picture just shows the curves. The third picture shows where the trucks always go off the road, because I've been faced going west, a truck coming east, and the back tire of the trailer he's trying to pull it back on the road and, veering toward me. So that's kind of a common occurrence. I did see also where we had put up, to track the speed on the road, because there are a lot of speeders on this road, but they only put it 0.6 of a mile from LA1. You need to have it further down to where, after the curve, where everybody really speeds up, to get an idea of how many people speed down that road. And even if we were able to add a shoulder, a 4-foot shoulder, because this road is only 22 feet wide, it still wouldn't help if an 18-wheeler full of 10,000 gallons of gas would hit one of these pipelines that are close to the road. So maybe we could, do something else, have other ideas on, rerouting the traffic, the dangerous, chemicals. And not so much his trucks. Like he's saying, he's transporting household. It's more of them crossing each other and not having room and possibly having a collision that would cause a lot of damage, not only to people's lives, but farmland, what kind of environmental impact would it have to the sugarcane fields as well? So, and I would just like that y'all could defer until, further study's been done. Thank you. And I hope that was
Anybody
under
else
3
have any
minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is George Hill. I live at 1323 North River Road here in Port Allen. I am one of 2 managing members of Homestead Plantation LLC. We own the land immediately to the east and to the south of the tract that's under consideration today. We are concerned that our future use of the property may be impaired. At the present time, our property is in sugarcane, it's zoned as agriculture. But with the development in the parish, I expect at some time we'll want to redevelop it for better use, and more likely it will be residential. The proposed use of I-2 would not be compatible. And we are concerned that the trailers that may be loaded with hazardous or toxic materials, and so we would oppose that on that basis. What we suggest is that this property be granted an I-1 classification with a special use permit that will allow the parking of empty trailers. We are concerned about not having hazardous toxic material on the property. So that is our position, and we would like to see some amendments made to what's being proposed.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else? Thank you, sir.
My name is John Hill III. George is my uncle. John Hill Jr. is my dad. They live here at 1131 North River Road. I live in Baton Rouge, but I do have an interest in Homestead Plantation LLC. Initially, when I first heard about this and noticed that the notice was only about the parking of van trucks, so I appreciate your question of the application. It appears to have turned into much more than we were prepared to discuss today. And I have a couple of questions. If this is an opportunity for me to ask questions, maybe of Mr. Durbin, regarding the zoning here. So in I-2, it says, the purpose of the I-2 moderate industrial district shall be to provide an area for moderate industrial development that will not negatively impact the residential and commercial areas of the parish. So my question is, the residential and commercial areas of the parish, is that as they are currently zoned? Or as my Uncle George was speaking of, future use of the property? Because that's our concern, is the impact of future use of our property. It's agricultural today, but our preference would not be I-2.
So I would interpret that wording to be if there's existing residential commercial surrounding the request, that would be the impact. Of course, we can't predict what people are going to do in the future with the zoning.
Right.
Kevin, rather than make it a question and answer, say, let him make his presentation, and then you can get up to the mic and make your answers to his
Sure, I'll keep
question.
a running list of his questions.
Yeah, the other, I just have two more. I think they're very, very simple. To my understanding, the property is currently zoned agricultural, but it does have the the broadcast tower antennas on them. Is that an allowed use under agricultural?
That would be grandfathered in, Mr. John.
Okay. And what about I don't know if y'all have seen the property in the recently. It has been cleared, it has trucks on it, it has, it looks like a full operation going on, basically. Is that allowed under agricultural? Is its use today allowed under agricultural?
I would have to do some more digging. mean,
I understand, you probably have not
that's a
seen it.
Formal investigation?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I didn't know if use of parking for a trucking facility is allowed under agricultural, under its current zoning.
Yeah, I mean, there are some trucking operations that are compatible with agricultural, but I would have to do a full investigation to answer that question.
Okay. Okay. And may I ask questions of Mr. Volley?
Yes.
So for the...
Hold on now.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Like I said,
I don't know the
want everybody
process.
to be speaking into that mic when they answer your question, please. I've asked Kevin to do it. I've asked you to give him your comments where he can answer them later on. But now you're trying to answer a question to people in the audience. Please, state your comments when we leave. Just say what you want to ask him.
Okay.
But I don't
Yeah.
want him to answer it.
Yes, I understand.
He'll complete the answer once you're finished. I'm trying to get this on the record.
I would like to know for the concrete operations, what type of emissions there are, and the hours of operation, and what type of, noise pollution there is associated with that. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now, Kevin, you want to get up and answer this question?
Yelling out from the chair. And I have an amendment to my first answer. The two questions he asked from the podium, Mr. John, the first one was, with respect to the communication towers, is that permitted under agriculture? The short answer to that is yes, they are. Communication towers are permitted under agriculture. The longer answer is that those particular towers would be grandfathered in. His second question was with respect to the existing operations. I can't answer whether or not that's allowed under ag without doing a full investigation. So I would have to go out and take pictures, gather statements from the landowners in order to be able to answer that question. Some trucking operations are allowed within agriculture, and without me doing a full investigation, I just can't answer that question.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mr. VA, you want to ask, what do you want to ask this question?
rebuttal, please.
Yeah, come on.
Unless there's anybody else.
Okay, you want to come up and make a comment?
Good evening. My name is Larry Matevia. My grandparents purchased some land on Lavator Lane in 1910. And so we have some questions about what will happen. We've got about 5 acres. If this goes through, will it increase the tax value or an appraisal value of the property? That's one of my questions. Also, with an industrial zone, would residential living be allowed? Would that change the residential living course? We were somewhere close to the hills. I've known of them and hunted on their property, shooting rabbits all my life as a boy. So it's kind of like this has basically been sugarcane farming, agricultural land, and families living. We were a black family living close to them, but they didn't mind when you came on there and stole some of their sugarcane. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm concerned with is what's going to happen in the future with the taxes, the property, and if they rezone this thing, how is that going to affect us? And it's because we have family members who intended to build homes on that property. So I don't know, and I'd like to know. I have more questions for you than answers, and I'm trying to get those questions answered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate all the comments. Anybody else have any comments? Anybody up here on the commission have any
Yep,
comments?
I do. I'm learning a lot of new things here tonight. A lot of things that weren't on this application. To me, this application is important. It helps show what we're gonna do. It educates us beforehand. I guess my first questions are the notifications. Do we have any comments on that? I'd like to hear why we didn't get it or did get it, or let's cover that first, please.
Sure, and I'm going to defer a little bit of that to Ms. Lynn, but the short answer to that is our hands are tied with respect to the law as to who we send notifications to. The law dictates to our office who those official notifications are sent to. And I'm going to let Ms. Lynn answer the question as to who the notifications did go to.
Ms. Krebs is correct. There's 3 adjacent property owners. I have to send them certified letters. The letters all went out. Matter of fact, they signed for them on the 2nd and the 3rd of October. One of them doesn't have a date. And the one that went to 2213 Lafferton Lane still hasn't been picked up, which.
I never got it. She's deceased.
Okay, well, she's the one that's still listed. The code says that we have to send it to whoever's listed in the assessor's site. And I checked that to make sure that it's the property as well as, because sometimes there's 2 different addresses. But that's how it's listed at the time.
Who else was it? Who were the other 2 people?
Matevia Joyce Dean et al., care of Sandra Davis. Of course, Mr. Tiggemai gets theirs. That's normal. Homestead Plantation at P.O. Box 456. The other ones, let's see.
Because that's always a concern is obviously people being notified.
Sure.
I mean, Stacy's saying she didn't even know till Thursday night, you know? And I have a little concern about that. I understand it's not a perfect thing to get the word out, but to me, that's very important to the public, no doubt.
The law is very clear as to who the notifications go to, and we're bound by that. We can't operate outside of the law.
Which is also
The
another
law
reason
says that
the
you have to
property is
send.
posted.
Yeah, the law says you have to send notices to all the abutting property owners. And it has to be the address that's given in the assessor's records, because that's who gets the tax bill.
It has to be sent, and what about received?
The law does not say the letter has to be received. I mean, someone could delay the process indefinitely just by not signing for the letter. People do that sometimes with our premise complaint court. You know, that's very frustrating.
Thank you,
It's
Karen.
also run 3 consecutive, I'm sorry, Mr.
Go
Jones.
ahead.
It's run 3 consecutive weeks in the West Side Journal. We are now posting it all on the web page also, because a lot of people are using the web. And the property is posted a minimum of 10 days before.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. I'm the one that sends it out. The property is posted up to 10 days before. It comes up for a public hearing. It's a white sign, and it's 2-sided, so when you're passing, you can see it coming and going. It's posted 3 consecutive weeks in the West Side Journal, because that is our paper of record. And then I'm required to send out certified letters to the adjacent property owners. And we're also now, we're not required by the code, but we are posting on the web, because we're going that way.
So
Thank you.
this brings, yeah, it answers my question. So this brings me to my next point, which I was getting to the application, which I seem to be really stuck on that. I'm sorry, Kevin, but, so what I'm kind of hearing here tonight, and I live out in this area, this is what I consider home, that area for me, and I pass that every day going to work. And what I'm hearing here tonight, and I'd like us to talk about it, and is Mr. Veely wants I-2, but he came here tonight with an application that says truck parking, but he tells us what he wants to do, what sounds like to me what he's planning on doing. And this zoning stuff is real, maybe I'm just that way. It's a little iffy for me, because once you grant something, it's granted, it's there, it's a done deal. And what I'm hearing tonight is we may have a little opening here for a little compromise. You got your trucking going on right now without the zoning, but we can give you the zoning. We can give the I-1, is what I'm hearing. That y'all would be okay with that. And I'm not sure how my colleagues up here feel, but it seems like, in my opinion, we can compromise right here tonight. And I'm willing to take that route. When, I guess later on, Mr. Veely wants to move to I-2, he can do that. I would even say that not long ago, about 2 months ago, we granted to RJ Transportation an I-1. He was already I-1, but we gave him a special user permit because he was going to have more than 25 trucks. I think we can do that too. And then when Mr. Veely really knows his plan, he can always come back to us, come back to the council. It's what I kind of think we should do at this point, in my opinion. I don't know if my colleagues feel different. You might. I think it's a good compromise. We've heard both sides of the stories, and both of you have two good sides.
Do we know what the zoning is on the adjacent property?
Agriculture.
He's surrounded by
He's
agriculture.
surrounded by agriculture. And here's one thing that we failed to any of us really mention here. This is a master plan change. It was mentioned at the very beginning. This is very important. We're talking about going from agriculture to I-2. Let's step it. We don't have to go to I-2 tonight. We can go to I-2 later. We can do it.
Is this directly across from the Anchorage Tank Farm?
Yes,
Yes.
Iowa.
3.
It's a little bit up from, I work at Placid, y'all know I work at Placid, I go there every day. I pass right by Mr. Veely's place every single day. And the Anchorage Tank Farm is just past there. It's not far, you can see it. So I would like for us to consider, at this point, I think it's a good compromise for both sides. And we can move forward later. So I'm done, Mr. John. I'm willing to make that motion if y'all are okay with it, but y'all tell me how y'all feel.
Well, we hadn't closed the public hearing.
I know, when you do close it.
Pardon? You want to get up here and make a comment? Look, I want to get back to Mr. Hill and tell Mr. Hill, you know, we're trying to get used to these computers, and these computers are hooked up to cameras. And whoever's talking on a mic has a camera looking at them. So if you're on that mic, you have a camera looking at you, and you're on the West Baton Rouge website. And that way, it's on the record. It's on the tape recorder. Where if a person makes a comment in the back of the audience, it's not on the camera, it's not on the tape recorder, and we don't have a record of the answers that you're getting. That's why I ask so much for people to be talking into this mic.
May I do a rebuttal of the comments that were made and clarify some things?
Sure.
Thank you very much. I know the word change scares everybody, and, but I will say that, you know, I hope they understand the confidence that I had showed them, that the property, of course, looks so much better now than what it did before. And I hope they understand that the I-2 property I own, and I'd owned that for 20 years before they built Criterion in it, that what I done to it looks very impressive, brought jobs, brought taxes, many dollars worth of taxes, many dollars worth of jobs, over 1,000 people associated with it. And I have been done all neatly, and I've been here for 30 years doing that neatly. I invested millions of dollars of my residents in Port Allen, at the same facility. And one of the most things that I'd like to say, even across the street by the new bridge, this is a house that was used for porta potties and growed up in weeds. And we cleared it up, we rented it to a company that works for Home Depot that installs carpet. And we even cut the grass underneath the old bridge. So my reputation for what I'm gonna do is good, is solid, and I have my estate planning for my children. So I'm not going anywhere, and I don't believe I have sold a piece of property. I don't ever recall selling a property. We're a debt-free company, we buy in property, and we buying it, investing in Port Allen. So I don't believe I have ever done anything that left a sour taste in anyone's mouth so far. Anything I'm sure is possible, but to rebuttal some of the things, we talked about the dangerousness of the pipeline. We talked about how dangerous the pipeline could be and the conditions of the road. Well, the road to me is a state highway, and it's the state's responsibility to keep it in a good condition. And I may remind you that many of the gas trucks come straight across from Plastic Refinery, which is all I-3, all the way up to this property, and has been I-3, and they go straight down this state highway with 9,000 gallons of gasoline. And that's in an aluminum trailer, which is about this thick. And that's what they do all day, and been doing that for, I think plastic's been there as many years as this radio tower's been there. All right, so I think that kind of addresses the highway and the joint of the gas risk. As far as I know, the sugar cane's been there since the 1900s. I know changes, lots, I hate to see sugar cane change, but what we're doing is something that's going to bring jobs, taxes, and we're doing it in a nice way. The conditions of the hours, the concrete grinding, you may think that it's huge machineries that run 24 hours, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I can assure you it's about $3,000 a day to do the grinding, and you do it about 2 weeks to 3 weeks out of a year of stockpile. When they do it normally from 8 to 5, use the latest equipment. It accumulates dust, has a dust accumulator, and makes the minimum amount of noise. Keep this noise level in mind. I live very close to it, myself right here. Also, the depth of this property is close to 2,000 feet. When you're standing back to the property, all you can physically see, and I stood on the property this morning, and all you can see is sugarcane and fields and woods. So I know that there is something other than that around it, but I can tell you at this time, standing on the property, that's what you can see. This property not only is close to I-3, it actually joins it if the road was to connect it, but it is I-3 across, joining across the street, and I-3 on the pipeline. So this is surrounded in I-3 area, in which I'm asking for I-2. And of course, we will be, as far as the taxes, I'm sure if any tax change would be on this land, bringing in more revenue, I would be at a higher tax rate. I don't believe it affects other people's taxes. That's all I had to say. Does anybody have any question on any of that? So I'd like to say, I'd like to continue to say, hey, I think to do the concrete crushing and what I asked for needs to vote on I-2. And I'd like to see a vote of I-2 and see let's see if anybody has an issue. That's what I'd like to have. Thank you much.
Thank you. Okay, all this is basically in my area. I mean, Lucky Louis been here for 30 years. He's always trying to improve stuff. He bought part of Margaret. He went north, he bought part of Monte Vista. He went up under the bridge and bought 100 or so acres of Bel Air. He went out on 190 and he bought 30 acres of Viola plantation. He went on the west side of my property and bought 7 acres from Benny Cannon. And I've never had any problem with him as a neighbor on my place. And they've got trucks going in and out of there. But like he's saying, he's got these leased out to different people. Earlier in the year, we approved a spot for some wreckers right there next to the fireworks stand up under the old, well, about the 12th block of 190 there, and they seem like they're running a clean operation. They don't have the junkyard that people thought they'd have and everything else. So I can't condemn Louis for doing anything except cleaning up bad situations. I know this piece of ground here hadn't been bush hogged in 30 or 40 years because it was all grown up. It's been a home for 2 or 3 poor horses there, all I know. And there's nobody think more about agriculture than me, because I've been farming all my life and I love agriculture. But you see, industry creeping in on us slow but sure. And that's one of the big problems with agriculture. They lose prime agriculture land every year to, like Mr. George said, to residences, to in industry. They'll go up and down West St. James buying a couple thousand acres here and there, and it tears up all the agriculture property. We just had the big railroad track just north of them over there go in, and they're allowing the farmers to farm all around the railroad track, so that helps. But like I said, I think he's done a good job in West Baton Rouge Parish, and like I said, 80% of his own holdings are in my area, so I can't talk bad about him. Are there any other comments?
I have one comment, sir.
Okay.
Okay, no one is impugning the reputation of Mr. Lewis. He's done a great job, we admit that. But once you zone it for I-2, it's forever. And when he's gonna be gone someday, we're gonna be gone someday, but we want to have the minimum change possible so that it doesn't adversely impact the property next to it. That's why we're suggesting zoning it as I-1 with a special use permit, and that will safeguard the adjacent property. And that way, that will be a good compromise. Mr. Lewis wants to develop his property. At some time, we want to develop our property. So we're looking for a compromise. And thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, I'm Raleigh Berthelot, West Baton Rouge Parish President. And zoning is probably one of the most difficult things we do, and we've seen it, you know, both in the council and in the planning commission meetings, zoning meetings. But one thing that we keep having this repeated discussion about with our council members, what comes first, planning or zoning? And you always do the zoning, and the application, you know, like, maybe we take some of the planning is the parking of the van truck. And that probably shouldn't be. You need to look at the chart, the permitted chart or the table that's in your book. And anything in I-2 is subject to be put on that property. It don't matter what he says, because we have people come up who want to zone their property commercial, just so they can sell it. They want to zone it I-1, I-2, just so they can put it on the market and see if they got a thing for it. You're not going to develop a plan unless you got somebody willing to buy it, or you got a project that you're fixing to do. So what you got to remember, and I'm saying it mostly for, you know, like some of the new people, you know, so that you understand, but you shouldn't say, well, we didn't do it right because we put that part of the plan, what he wanted to do. But it's always good when a guy can come to you and sit down in front of you and tell you, this is what I plan to do. It helps us. It helps us in commercial. It helps us in make those decisions, because they're already tough enough when you got to look at everything. So I just want to be clear on that, you know, you need to consider, and I think somebody said it a while ago, anything that's in that permitted chart on the I-2 is what he could put on that property. Because once it's zoned, it is zoned. And I do have a lot of respect for Mr. Louis. and what he's brought to West Baton Rouge Parish. Did a wonderful job. Mr. Hill and of course, Stacy's family, the Turners and the Carews, they continue to do stuff for the parish. So we've got two good families here, more than two, but, I appreciate what they do, and I know it's tough, but thank you.
Thank you, Pee Wee.
Okay, are there any other comments? Any other comments? Being none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Oh, okay. I want back, Mr. Mativi. Come back up here to the mic, please.
I still have the question, would this new plan, rezoning, increase the property taxes of those presently owning the property? Would that change the property tax? I'm asking that question of this body.
Well, it's gonna change his property tax if he bought that property and is improving it, because he'll be getting taxes on all the different items they put on there. The more they improve it, the more the tax base will be. Are you asking if it's gonna increase your taxes?
That's what I'm asking.
I'll ask Pee Wee that. I
Don't
see
know
where
if we can answer that.
It probably
We
won't
can't
increase
answer that.
yours. And Mr. Mateo, at your age, I believe you can go sign a paper and freeze your taxes.
Okay, all right, thank you. She asked another question, can we build residential on that property?
On your property?
Yes, sir. Build a home.
Well, you might have to come up here and get it approved for residential.
Sir? That rezoning won't affect that in any way?
It won't affect yours.
Okay, that's the question I was asking.
Yeah, in the
Thank you.
picture. Kevin, you want to make any comments?
Just ask Lynn to pull up the map, if she can, so we can see Mr. Matia's property.
Where's your property, Mr. Mativi? Oh, he's leaving.
It's gonna be, opposite Carrie Trailer Park.
Opposite Carrie's Trailer Park, okay. So, okay, well,
Come over this way.
this is the trailer park.
Bring your fingers
Right
up.
above the purple.
Oh. I can't see what you're pointing at there. Point it to
I'm
me
trying to
back
show it
there.
down here. You're
North
trying
of
to show
Louis,
it.
across Lafayette from TMI? Right there.
Okay, look, it's this one right here. He's ag.
Okay,
Down from there.
okay.
Bring it this way. Can you bring it that way?
Which way? Well, you want to go that way? Well, that's his name there, Metevia?
So just, of course, I'm not the assessor, nor am I pretending to speak on behalf of the assessor, but we do have a close working relationship with that office. To the best of my understanding, Mr. Mativi's property is going to be assessed as it is being used. So whatever Mr. Veely does on his property is not necessarily going to affect Mr. Mativi's. Now, Mr. Veely could raise the property values in the area potentially, but again, that property is going to be assessed as it's being used, which apparently is undeveloped. Undeveloped, currently is vacant. It's vacant, undeveloped. Yeah, and so the question about what can they do, they would have to go through the rezoning process
Yeah.
if they wanted to develop a subdivision. Now, if you just want to build a house or so, you can do that in agricultural,
that.
yes.
Okay.
You can do that.
Any other comments? Any other comments?
One last comment. I just wanted to say it was not sugarcane land. It was horses, and I know a lot of people are worried about taking farmland away, but it wasn't being used as sugarcane land. It was being used as a horse farm or whatever. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know who had those horses, but they'd been out there for years and years. Okay, no other comments? I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
No, you close the public.
I'm closing the public
You
hearing.
closing the public hearing.
Okay. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to dispense with item number 4B.
Okay, I got a motion made. Lynn, I guess you want to make sure we get this right. I'm back to my compromise. I really feel like in this situation, it's the best way to go at this time. I'd like to entertain a motion to recommend to the West Baton Rouge Parish Council to deny the agriculture to I-2 and approve the agriculture to I-1 with a special user permit on this property, 35 acres, TMI Enterprise LLC, part of Margaret Plantation. And I'll leave that on the floor.
Carrie, a special use permit is for a specific reason, so.
It's for the 25 or more trucks.
Gotcha, okay.
Just like we did at RJ Trucking.
Okay,
I
same
want
thing.
to grant that with this.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
The motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Okay. No further discussion? Being none, mark your ballot.
He made a motion.
Do I need to read it? You want me to read it again? Okay. Yes, so you would vote yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Failed.
The motion failed. It's 4 for and 4 against. Anybody want to make a substitute motion at this time? Anybody want to make a substitute motion?
I'd like to make a motion if I could.
Okay.
If we could just defer this until we get further information, possibly to, I'm not familiar with the process, of course I'm new, but to see if we can look into this as far as, into the I-1, I-2.
Curtis, you gotta remember that we're just making a recommendation.
Right,
Okay.
we're making a,
Council.
so the recommendation is just,
We're not
right.
voting to make that
Right.
recommendation, but it's
Yeah.
actually their,
Okay.
All right.
I would say at a minimum,
Thank you.
I would say at a minimum, you have to vote on his request. So, I mean, what Mr. Denstall offered was a compromise, and the compromise failed. Since he's requesting I-2, I would say at a minimum, you have to take a vote on that tonight or defer it, either way.
I'm gonna make a motion, we approve it.
Okay, so, yeah, I mean, you have to send the council some recommendation
Okay.
on the request. Yes, sir.
Okay, you want to
Okay.
make a subsequent motion?
Motion by
To
Rusty, that
approve
be
it for
approved.
I-2. Okay, hang on. Let me catch up with you guys.
Second, Sidney.
Might be too late.
We're in the middle of a,
Motion, second by Sidney.
Okay, so subsequent, okay. And so vote.
Okay, at this time, mark your ballot.
Could, I'm sorry, could you please repeat what you're?
I recommended it for approval.
for I-2.
As an I-2.
Okay.
So it's still
4
failed.
for,
It's still failed.
2 against, 3 abstain. Okay, the motion fails. Okay. Let's
So
move
it just
on.
goes to the council without a recommendation, correct, Kevin? And then they'll decide, right?
Recommendation to deny.
So I'm not really sure for the reason for the 3 abstentions, and I won't get into that, but basically, this vote failed.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Okay, item number 4C. File number 2018-11, rezoning from agriculture to rural residential single family 3 due to subdividing property and it will no longer meet the 4 acres required for the agriculture zone. At 6053 Flynn Road, Port Allen. Okay, that's from Mr. Patrick Collins. Is there anybody here to represent that? Okay. Would you like to come up and let us know what you're doing, please, sir?
My name is Patrick Collins. I'm at 5063 Flynn Road. For some reason, my property was lumped. I have 2 separate lots, and it was all lumped together. When that happened, I'm not sure, but I wanted to separate it again for purposes of remortgaging, and also that 2.5 acres on the flag lot was never mortgaged. And the way it was lumped together, it was trying to get it included into a mortgage that it wasn't supposed to be. And the only issue that we saw was that the right-of-way is 43.5 rather than 50. When it was done, we didn't know what the minimum was, but it was done on the existing road that existed, so and that's what it ended up being. So we're asking for a variance on that, and basically that's it.
Okay. So this is really a subdivision for mortgage purposes?
At the time of the building permit.
This is for the bank?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'm refinancing, and I did not want to include the 2.5 acres in the refinance. The house sits on an acre.
You familiar with it, Rusty? Ms. Joy, you're not familiar with it?
Well, I mean, probably passed it 1,000 times, but I'm going too fast to notice. But I mean, I know the area.
If I may, the only reason Mr. Collins got caught in this is because now the code says that anything over 4 acres, it has to be over 4 acres to be agricultural. His property is currently agricultural, and in taking out the flag lot, he's no longer grandfathered in, so he's got to go to residential. So that's what Mr. Collins is doing here.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Okay. This time, I'm gonna close the public hearing. I'd like to entertain a motion to dispense with item number 2018-11.
I'll second.
Motion by Rusty, second by Sidney. Okay. And no other discussion, please mark your ballot. Okay, it was unanimous.
I guess I may need to rethink my original comments about the fate of the motion on Mr. Veely's property. The law says of the voting members present. Now, because there were 3 abstentions, that equaled 6 voting members. So 4 out of 6 would be a supermajority. So between now and the council, I guess I'm going to have to discuss it with the parish attorney, and I'm sorry that the folks left. But depending on how you interpret that statute, that second motion could possibly have passed. Yes, ma'am.
I did set the computer up for a 2/3 majority, and the computer said it failed. Now, that doesn't mean,
The law says of the voting members present. So it depends on how you interpret the voting members present. What is an abstention a vote? I don't know. So I'll have to give it to the parish attorney. So I just wanted to clarify that
Okay.
before we break. Yes, sir.
Let us know what you come up with.
Probably put it in the hands of the parish attorney.
It's been a long time since we had a meeting, but it's not easy tonight anyway.
No, it's not. We gave you a toughie.
Okay. Other business. At this time, we'll have election of officers. Currently Chairman John Tilton, Vice Chairman Sid Blanchard, Secretary Ms. Joy Hopkins.
Whoa, whoa.
Bye,
Yeah, I
darling.
was gonna make,
Bye-bye. Mr. Collins, good luck.
It's on the president's signature too, right?
No, it's for the council. Mr. Collins, excuse me, Mr. John, hold on, you're in planning too. Sit down.
you got something next. So, I didn't know if I
You're,
could,
you're not finished yet.
I didn't know if I could, in my motion, we have to do them individually, or I was gonna say,
I was gonna ask.
do all three.
Do y'all
I'm
wanna do
okay
them all
with
three
that,
together,
but
or do y'all wanna, break them
up
up?
to you.
Either way. No, it's up to you guys.
my motion is to lump them together and keep it as is.
Okay,
You okay with that?
That's right.
Okay. Motion by Rusty, second by Carrie. Okay, no discussion. All those, mark your ballot.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Unanimous. Okay, Ms. Jackson?
Whoa, whoa, whoa. One
What?
second. Hang on, you're faster than me.
Hold on.
She's got jet lag. She's got jet lag.
Ms.
It takes a
Jackson?
while. We hadn't had a meeting in a while.
Okay. It has been a while.
Okay. Mark your ballot. Oh, that was unanimous too. Okay. This time I'm gonna call a meeting of the Planning Commission to order. I'd like the motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of 8/21 and 9/18. Motion by Rusty Valley, second by Ms.
I'm
Jackson.
I'm trying.
Oh, Ms. Green, okay.
Oh, y'all gotta, hang on.
Is there any discussion on the minutes? Being none, mark your ballot. Okay. Curtis, did you? Oh, you weren't here, okay.
He wasn't here, that's why he's
You
abstaining.
abstained. Okay. Thank y'all. This time I'm gonna open up the public hearing for file number 2018-15. That's the final plat showing the re-subdivision of Lot 7A and the Lot LA1 and flag Lot 7A2, running on Flynn Road for Mr. Collins.
May I?
Go ahead.
May I? Once again, Mr. Collins is here because for mortgage purposes only, he's trying to divide this property. His flag lot is short the 50 feet that's required. And if you see on the plat L86, I have it flagged, it's 43.52 feet. And because of the logistics of everything else, he couldn't go the 50, so this plat is in need of a waiver for the 50-foot frontage of the flag lot.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Okay, this time I'll entertain a motion to dispense with item. Let me close the public hearing first. And then, we want a motion
It's hard to type on this
on
thing,
the
you guys.
subdivision, subject to the variance
The
waiver, not variance, waiver. Okay.
Oh, yay.
Any discussion on that? Being none, mark your ballot. Okay, is there any other business?
Yes,
Is-
I do have other business.
Okay,
You're good, Mr. Collins. Next Thursday with the council, and you'll have to wait for the planning and the zoning, because it's two different things, okay? Okay, this is a reminder, for some who don't know, and I do have some newbies, there's only one meeting November and one meeting December, because that's what the council does. so this is your only meeting in November. Enjoy your turkey. You only have one meeting in December, and I don't have anything on the agenda yet, okay? However, this is also a reminder, when there's a holiday on a Tuesday, your meeting automatically goes to the Wednesday. January the 2nd, I do have an agenda item, so you will have a meeting the Wednesday after New Year's, which is the 2nd of January. Okay, you're gonna see, I added Mr. Curtis Ducote to your list here. Mr. Ray told me that he no longer has a landline. Please take a minute and make sure that the information I have for you is correct, and if it's not, let me know. Okay. Great, great, okay, so we'll do that. Okay, let's see, make sure, we know about Rusty, meeting December, January. It has been a long time when we were rusty on this computer, but I think we got it for the next meeting.
Okay,
Thank you all
Good
very
deal.
much.
Thank you.
okay, now,
Within a year, yeah, you gotta do it once a year, so I need it by the end of the year. Let me send it to you.
under other business, I want to welcome Curtis back here. And like I say, would you just take a minute or two, you could bring us up to date on who you are and where you are and what your interests are and what you expect to get out of the planning commission.
Right now, I have a personal vendetta against Ricky Lou. For getting me out of retirement, but, I worked at a chemical plant for 28 years. 13 of those years, I was in process safety management. And I conducted meetings, something like process hazards analysis for technology of the process and stuff like that for OSHA. And I was also with the Homeowners Association president for a few years for Oak Alley.
Oh, okay.
And I'm still kind of like a sitting-in board member in case they have any questions and things of that nature. And I lived at Oak Alley for over 20 years. Married to my wife. We'll celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary this year.
Congratulations.
Good. Well, Oak Alley was one hot topic for this commission.
I bet it was.
When they decided they wanted to put a road from American Way through Oak Alley and come out at, what's that?
Brittany Estates?
No,
No?
the one just,
Riverside.
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 Those people did not want a road going through their subdivision. And lo and behold, they found out after they got that road, that they could go through there and come out at a red light on American Way on foggy mornings. The school buses could have a safe route in and out if there was a problem, in case a train stopped them or whatever, so you couldn't take their road away from them now, but they did not want that road to start with.
That was one of our big issues for trying to slow down traffic between those two. So, I understand.
But we really want to welcome you, and like I said, I think you'll get a lot of info. You keep up with what's going on in the parish, and it's really nice.
Well, I certainly appreciate the warm welcome on that.
Ms. Landry, I want to invite you to come back again. We enjoyed your comments. They were really nice.
Thank you for the handout, too.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Jackson?
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
It has, we've had it, and it's been worse.
Mr. John,
Yeah.
till we meet again.
Congratulations on your election, buddy.
Same to you. I have to cut back on my election budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just, can you believe a man wrote that book?
Don't get involved in ethics now.
I cannot, and it was like, it was almost like my people, you know, because my people came from service, you know, didn't own anything.
Oh, most definitely.
Let me go see if Terry's out there.
Okay.
I told him, it's around 6.
Hey, Kevin, want me to see you out?
I'm okay. because I can hop out that door right there. But thank you very much. And, I think we all rusty. I'm sorry. We're all rusty. We haven't been on the computer in a while, and we made some changes just before. So,
Okay, so you're gonna be able to take a place now when you go on vacation?
If we were gonna have a meeting, I was gonna do it, but I told her I'd rather come sit in too.
You need to sit up, let her sit up here and feel her way through it though.
this thing
Next
is
time.
not,